Hi, everyone. Henry DeVries with Agency Rainmaker TV. This is where we help agency owners in the marketing, advertising, digital marketing space find right fit clients. And we do that by sharing stories by people who've been there and done that. And we have one of those today, Allison Tabor. Allison, how are you today?
I'm great, Henry. Nice to be here with you.
Oh, I'm honored that you came on. Why don't you tell people about your firm, what you do for people?
The main thing is I'm the author of a book called Work Your Assets Off, Stop Working So Hard in Business and in Life. And all that I do emanates from that philosophy of not having to work so hard and really leveraging. So I work with a lot of leaders and teams so that they can work not so hard, but more aligned and more leverage that serves them best. So that can look like helping them identify their natural strengths and talents, their interests, their communication styles, and how they operate as a leader so that they're leading more aligned, more authentically, creating better results without this unnecessary overwhelm and extreme, burnout sometimes that you see.
I know you really love business owners. You were one. You went through the trials and tribulations. Just tell us a little bit about the background.
Oh, well, I owned and operated a structural engineering company for over 30 years with my husband. And he was all things technical, and I was the CEO. I ran the business. And there was no business owner's manual, if you will, that just was handed to me. Like, this is how you start a business. This is how you grow a business. This is how you evolve, with your clients and what type of clients, what type of work you're doing. There really wasn't any form of directive other than trial and sometimes error and then regrouping. And so there were times that I worked really hard, and I think that was where the work your assets off came from. Is like when I started to learn that there's a better way, an easier way, a more aligned way, and that everyone else is effective, more effective, and we're all collectively more successful. It really was, I want to say the business was the canvas and the learning lesson, collection for where I am today. Everything makes perfect sense. I couldn't have predicted this years ago, Henry, but when I look back, everything I do today and all those I support and collaborate with was absolutely informed by what I did and didn't do well, right, all of those things. So lessons learned, paying forward.
Everything has led you to where you were supposed to be, and it's where you are right now. Um,
Yes.
I too do not believe in coincidences. I believe there's a path, and you definitely followed it. Well, let's talk about how you get clients now for this leadership consulting business you have. And we mentioned about being an author. We mentioned some other things. Well, let's talk about the other things you do.
Well, a lot of what I do is work with leaders and teams, and that a lot of that looks like understanding the dynamics that, within any particular team. And I spend a great amount of time understanding communication styles. I love DISC. I used DISC as a tool when I had my engineering business, and that's where I really learned that my team members, they weren't all hardwired the same. And so understanding how to communicate with each one differently, how to motivate each one differently. It wasn't just a disc. I use a tool that is a little more comprehensive. It's really three tools merged into one, which includes communication styles, attributes, and motivators. And so when you have this data on humans, it allows you to interact with them where they feel heard, seen and heard. And that's what we ultimately want, whether we're introverts or extroverted or people oriented, process oriented. We all have our own bias towards how we want to be communicated with. And at the end of the day, we all want to be seen, heard, and treated the way we want to be treated. That's the platinum rule. Not, people don't want to be treated the way we want to treat them. They want to be treated the way we want, excuse me, the way they want to be treated. And really using those tools in my own engineering business was just a multiplier. I could see the changes and how my team felt, how they worked, and how successful they were. And it was like the win-win. It was where we aligned everything. So that's very much a part of what I do today, because I leaned into using those tools when I was leading my own business, realized this is very powerful. The understanding the human dynamics piece is huge. And so I do spend a great amount of my time and energy on the human dynamics, understanding humans, and that looks like disc workshops, retreats, supporting leaders as they're growing their team, or they're trying to be more aligned as leaders with their teams, and so forth.
We use the same tools, just as you described, and you did a reference to the platinum rule from Tony Alessandra, one of our authors and one of my mentors, and it really makes a difference, especially that people. Um, I was amazed at how much my team appreciated the feedback and the understanding that, oh, if you're going to talk to Henry, you do it this way. But Henry, if you're going to talk to them, this group, you need to do it this way. So it's just so wonderful. Tell me how you got involved in WPO.
Well, it's interesting. The When I decided I was ready to move on from my business, I was in the business for so many years and through many different cycles, and I decided that I wanted to play on a different. I wanted to take what I did and expand that and bring it out into the business world and help other business owners. So I started working with family businesses and couples in business, and I was at the time I was fully baking what the next version of my career looked like, and I completed this exercise. I don't know, you remember Richard Bowles, the What Color Is Your Parachute book?
Yes. Oh, I've used
And,
that book.
and the flower exercise, I can thank for why I'm with WPO today, because the flower exercise allowed me to populate the different petals with each of these different pieces of data. I guess, it's funny is I'm brought up data a few times. I'm more of a people forward than a data forward, but I use data to inform what I do with people. And so I was using that data about myself. What type of environments do I want to be in? What types of people I want to work with? The things that matter to me, the core values. And so doing the self-reflection and the self, questioning allowed me to get crystal clear. And then if you looked at my flower, which actually I have a copy of my flower in my book, but if you look at the completed flower, everything that was listed there aligned to a job description for being a WPO facilitator. I didn't look for it. I wasn't looking at job postings. I had a colleague who came to me. This was Jim Collins talks about who luck. It's the luck of the who comes in your life. Well, I had a little bit of who luck, and that came by way of a colleague, her name Ann Blackburn. She came out and said, "I'm ready to move on, and you would be absolutely perfect. Having been a business owner who, literally, walked in the shoes of other business owners, you would be a great facilitator to lead groups of women business owners. What are your thoughts?" And I was curious. I said, I'm curious. I'd love to learn more. And she sent me a job description, and it was check, 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 check. It was as if someone literally looked at my flower and said, "All right, I'm going to design a role that's going to allow you to lean into these things that matter to you: communication, collaboration, entrepreneurship." And this everything was just there. And so that's what led me to the group. That was over 13 years ago. And I started with just her group that she was retiring out of. And then I ended up launching a second group from scratch, which was a very different experience from you inheriting a group versus launching a group. And then now I have another group, which is a national group. So I have two groups of women business owners that meet half a day once a month. And my other group, it's more of a retreat-like meeting where we take deeper dives over the course of 3 days, and we travel internationally for it. It's just an incredible experience. Love working with business owners from a million to over $100 million in annual revenue. They're all there to develop themselves as leaders, to grow their businesses. So they have an appetite for growth, their own and their teams and their businesses. And I love being around that energy of growth. I also love being around the energy of support that they bring to each other, lessons learned, sharing things. So some of the lessons we may not have to learn quite as hard because we can learn it from through the experience that others are sharing with us. So it's an incredible community. I love the WPO for so many reasons, and as long as I am invited and able, I plan on continuing to support women business owners through the WPO organization.
If I may pay you a compliment,
Oh,
you've always been
no,
about.
no, no.
No, don't pay me a compliment. You said, you're people forward more than data forward, but also you're relationship forward,
Mm,
and you're a connector and a builder. And I remember your book launch party at
mm.
that beautiful theater in
Paramount Theater,
the
yes.
Paramount Theater in Oakland, and the people brought together there. Just a fine testimony. Allison, is there anything you'd like to add before we bid adieu?
Well, on that, I would say, when we talk about work your assets off, that is how I get to work my assets off. One of my assets is my community, is my connections, is my relationships, and leaning into that in a way that brings value to others, that it's not so much what can I get from my community, but it's how can I build community? How can I bring value to community? And then it just happens. It's just by doing that, there's this multiplier effect that your community brings things for you and does things with you that you couldn't do on your own. It is incredible. So I will say working your assets off is understanding what motivates you, understanding your what your assets are, and then leveraging those. And so today, I am a much more leveraged leader than I was when I started all those years ago. And I leverage my community in ways that are value enhancing for everyone. And I appreciate you bringing that up. I don't know if I would have offered that. So thank you for highlighting that
Yeah.
because it's true.
I I think leverage is your word of the year.
It
Well, thank you
is.
so much for being with us today, and for all our viewers. Until next time, make it rain.